Hi again, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Mr. K on Sports. And today I'm going to talk about the favorite whipping boy of most National Football League fans, the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. Everyone knows they struggled, especially at the end of last year, particularly in the running game. But I think things have been way overblown, and I think that they have addressed things and definitely have a plan. So I'd like to talk about that. So last year, the argument was made that the offensive line wasn't very good and they lost two of their starters. They're going to be worse. Well, one starter was Maurkice Pouncey, the center, who had his worst year, very low grades, and he decided to retire. Then Mr. Villanueva on the left tackle, similar situation, had low grades, did not perform up to what he's done in the past, and Alejandro was not re-signed and ended up signing with the rival Baltimore Ravens and had some parting shots for the Steelers to kind of fuel that rivalry as if it needed any more fuel for next year. But the Steelers on the offensive line still have David DeCastro, their guard, who is an all-pro caliber player. They took Chuks Okorafor, and they plan to move him to left tackle, where he's better suited to play, and he was solid at right tackle last year. Zach Banner, who actually won the right tackle job in the last training camp and then tore up his knee and missed the whole season, he's back, and he's a real road grader on the right side. So the tackles look to be in good shape. The other guard is Kevin Dotson, who was a rookie last year, who had an excellent rookie season. Center is the big question mark. And the Steelers signed B.J. Finney, a player that they had years ago who is a fill-in. He can play center and both guard positions. Anytime that he has had to start in the league, he's done well. He could be a guy that starts the season, but the guy they're hoping will take over is Kendrick Green, their third-round draft choice. And Green is a guy who reminds a lot of people of Maurkice Pouncey, and they fully expect him by season's end to be the starting center. J.C. Hassenauer played some center last year when Pouncey was out and did fairly well, and he can provide guard depth as well as center depth. And the Steelers quietly did sign two other offensive linemen that have starting experience in the NFL. Rashad Coward is a guard from the Bears, and Joe Haig, a big tackle from Tampa Bay. So there was some depth there. They also drafted in the fourth round Dan Moore Jr., a big offensive tackle. So those seem to be the main players, but I also noticed they really did stockpile, especially offensive tackles, on the undrafted young free agent types. And especially on the offensive line, you never know in training camp. One of these guys could come forward and end up being starting caliber. I'm talking about names like Anthony Coyle, Aviante Collins, Jaron Jones, John LeGlue, and Brandon Walton. Guys we haven't heard of, but they'll have an opportunity to compete in training camp. So to me, the Steelers have addressed the offensive line. I think the big publicity was they didn't go after a first or second round draft choice on the offensive line, but they did address the running game in a way by, again, coming up with the prize running back Najee Harris in the first round and the excellent all-around tight end Pat Freiermuth from Penn State in the second round. So I would not panic, Steeler fans. I think the Steelers have addressed the offensive line. I see them being better on the offensive line next year, and then also instilling more of a run mentality to balance that attack for Ben Roethlisberger and company. So again, I think the offensive line is not so big a concern, and hopefully we'll find out in training camp if I'm right. Thanks for joining me again. This is another edition of Mr. K on Sports.